one element of that that we've discussed here on previous webinars and other elements is kind of this notion of total cost of ownership, and really kind of that total cost to you're thinking about end user workflows. So Stephen mentioning kind of, hey, unfortunately there's, a few SSO providers out there, right? So if you're ever curious, go to sso.tax, and there's kind of a list of folks that, you kind of have to pay for the additional premium feature, but you do that in a sense to say, okay, well now I can save time. Now onboarding and offboarding at a macro level is much easier for some of those elements. And so I'm curious, when you're thinking about either fighting for more budget or kind of asking other things, how often does that sense of kind of really having that totality of kind of total cost of ownership or total things that might impact you, right? Especially Rob, everything, all the bucks stop with you, right? And so how much does it impact your timing, expertise, and kind of elements and all of those pieces when you're thinking about those types of decisions?
I'm lucky enough that I get to take my time to experiment and test out and figure out what I want to deploy. More or less, it was a clean slate. And as I said, stuff happened. They understand the value of this. They let an employee go. She'd been there for 20 years almost, and all the email accounts and stuff took them 2 months for our office administrator to find everything and change it over. It took me 30 seconds to disable her account on the computer and stuff that I had control on. So I'm lucky on that respect. I more or less, once I've made my mind up, they'll just be like, yeah, go ahead, buy it. It's reasonable. So yeah, like you said, I'm a bit of an oddball in that respect.
Well, and so a question came in from Jake and kind of adding into that fold, right? And so we've been talking about SSO mainly from end user flow and other pieces, but we've also talked about the offboarding aspect, right? And thinking about provisioning. Do you also look for, especially for applications, the ability for them to have skim provisioning specifically when you're thinking about adopting it? And does that accelerate things, or is that a table stakes baseline, or kind of how does that fit into your point of view and perspective?
For me right now, skim is something I'm looking into later on. I'm still setting up some of the infrastructure at our place because I spent the first year just observing basically and putting out the fires. I spent this last year actually implementing stuff. And so yeah, skim's still on the table for me a little bit further down the line. Right now, I'm just working on authentication period.
Fair enough. Stephen, how about yourself?
Yeah, skim is a nice to have. It's really frustrating when it doesn't exist. I'm lucky in that I have a development background, so I majored in computer science with an emphasis in software engineering. So I love programming. I know I'm good at it, in my opinion. I don't know if other people agree with me. So the skim provisioning is really nice. If it doesn't exist, I'm sometimes okay with it, because if they have an API system in the backend that I can use to provision, deprovision stuff, we developed a custom application internally to track a lot of stuff for us. It's a combination like asset management, HRIS, a couple of other things. And so with that, extending it to provision, deprovision, manage accounts to other software that doesn't support skim but does have an API for their user backend is easy enough. It takes me a couple hours to get it integrated. So API and skim are the two things I look at, but of course there's always going to be a handful that we have one that doesn't support skim at all, and then to access they give you full access to their API system except for the users. You have to pay for their enterprise plan to get access to the user API calls. So that's, but just add it to the list if it's something that we can't do without, and it's on the checklist of stuff to create and delete and onboarding and offboarding.
Please subscribe and check out more content from us.